Oh, hey. Hey, guys.
You doing it right?
I don't know.
Does it say up?
It says PU. What's PU stand for?
That's technically a D. It's like a DN, like down maybe. Maybe that side goes down. Yeah, throw it on.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Psych! That's the wrong number. So basically the issue last time was the other head gasket, focus. The other head gasket went this way.
You want to pass me the head gasket?
And,
Let's see.
Oh yeah, it's over there.
Yeah.
The, this oil port, I'm guessing that's the main oil feed for the head. That was completely, pouring out the back of the block. Yeah, like that. So, if you can see, that whole part was open. So, now it should be fine. We'll be alright. So we're going to make sure Lee does it right this time. And we're going to take, you know, precautions and make sure everything's done right. And then hopefully by the end of the video, we get a startup. Move the feed line out of the way. Hold on. She's in. So now we just throw them nuts on and make sure all the washers are in there. Because
You got your little green flashlight?
I don't, because I didn't drive the Accord. It fell under the seat in the Accord. It's okay. We'll be alright. We're gonna get the head torque down and then we'll be back. Alright, so we got the head on. It's not torqued yet. Everybody has their preferences. With ARPs, I like to go 25, 50, 80. I think the factory is 75.
Might be 80.
Or it might be 80 or something like that.
It's 80.
Anyway, we're gonna do 25, 75, 80. So we're gonna set this thing up. Oh wow, it's like real thick. So that's 25. We're gonna lock it in place.
There's a sequence, but we already know the sequence from doing this 20 times.
I mean, we've only done it to this one. This is the second time we've done it to this motor. Basically, you start from the center, you work your way outwards in an X pattern.
See how mine clicks? Yours click, then it's just...
Yours is like a vague click. Alright, so now those are all done.
Let it sit.
You let it sit, like, basically when you're tightening it down, it heats up. So you let it sit for a little bit, not a little bit, but like 10 minutes. Let them cool off. And then you do the next torque sequence, which is 50. Are you recording?
Yeah, I'm
Lee,
recording.
sometimes you suck at recording.
Bro, why do I suck at everything, bro?
Put some effort into it, baby.
Man, this
What are you
sucks,
doing? Man, boy, if you don't pay attention.
I'm paying attention.
Anyway, Lee's on the camera now. So if there's shake cam or anything, or for some reason the camera just starts leaking oil, it's leaking.
Funny guy.
Anyway, it's set at 50, so now we're going to do the second round. Don't mind me, just... I'm not going to make worse sounds because it's YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Anybody.
Can't be demonetized.
I can't get copyright infringed if I'm not...
Well, yeah, you can still get struck for that. That's
Luckily, I haven't.
And the last one.
Now I'm gonna just go back over and make sure I got all of them.
Put in like a... Put in that little video with the one dude.
Anyway, so if you don't hold the phone straight, God. Anyway, no, it's not a blooper reel. It's getting put in. It's all gets. I don't.
Those are also put in.
Lately, I've been super lazy with editing, so I put it all in.
I can tell.
I don't. I can't believe you. Anyway, 80 foot-pounds. Final torque steps.
That's good.
Screw you, buddy. Not you guys, you buddy.
Sure you're...
And now, it's time for them good goods. Them GSE bump sticks. Alright, so we've got the bump sticks. These are the GSE Turbo Stage 1 cams. Got these off of our buddy Jarrett. He parted out one of his builds, so he hooked us up. We're using stock cam gears for now because we had VMS ones, but I don't really, they had a little bit of movement back and forth, which I'm sure probably went away when you tighten them, but I just didn't trust it. It was enough to make it kind of sketchy. So we're just gonna put them in with OEM cam gears for now. Always when you're doing, if you're changing cams or you do your head gasket and you're putting your OEM cams back in, always make sure you oil down your rockers. This is the Permatex Ultra Slick, the red one. So I always just make sure the rockers are lubed and try to lube up this area, the journals for the cams. Just make sure that way when you first start, it's got a nice thick oil surface thingy so that, you know, it's so that it doesn't mess up the cams when until it gets oil pressure. And then you want to make sure that's the distributor one, so that's one on that side. Don't be like me. One time I was putting cams in Mika's car, and I think what it was, I think either both cams, I think I was just rushing, but I put the exhaust cam on the intake and the intake cam on the exhaust, which technically you can do on these. If you have like regrinds, you can send out two exhausts, or two, whichever side has the cuts in it for the distributor. If you regrind them, you can send them out and you can swap back and forth. Some people do that. It's a common thing in like the 240 community. But yeah. And we already have it set at top dead center. So you spin the cams in until they sit kind of flat. And then you take more of the red good. And yeah. You just put a little bit on top of the cam. Yeah, the more the merrier. You can't really, you really can't overdo it, honestly. Like,
not at all.
You can't over lube it. I had one time on my wide accord, the coupe, if you guys, I hate to say OG subscribers like I'm a big channel, but when I first came about with the YouTube challenge, I was talking about using my Accord coupe. Well, I assembled the H23 in that, and I used a ton of this when I assembled the H23, and I started it and it ran for like 10 minutes, and at the time I didn't have an oil pressure gauge or anything, and it ran for 10 minutes. I shut it off, I pulled the valve cover, the head had no oil in it. Turns out, long story short, the oil pan didn't match the pickup tube, and the pickup tube was smashed to the bottom of the pan and it wasn't sucking up oil. But after that, I pulled the motor back out, and I just pulled the cam cap, the rod ends, and all the bearings were fine, the cam was fine, the cams. I put it all back together after I fixed that, and it was perfectly fine. So this stuff can make or break an engine, long story short. So now we gotta get the cam cap, so the cam cap's on. And also, I've had horrible luck torquing the cam cap bolts. A lot of people say to torque them, but a lot of the times you're reusing the old ones, and they've been heated and cooled a lot. So when you go to torque them to whatever the factory spec is, they will snap. So what I like to do is I like to use a 1/4-inch ratchet with whatever size socket you need, and you grab it by the head and you kind of just, you tighten it down until it feels right. With these, you don't have to worry about it as much as the rods and the mains because they're not going to flex as much. So you can get away with a little bit of an uneven, I hate to say it, it sounds half-ass-ish, but that's the way I do it to protect myself from breaking a bolt off in the head and ruining a day. So we're going to throw the cam caps on and we'll be back. Alright, so we got everything on, everything's torqued well, they're torqued properly. I got the timing belt on, so now we're going to adjust the valves for the new cams. They say adjust them hot, but we're going to set it now, and then as long as everything works properly, we will let it run for a little bit, let it warm up, and then we'll pull the valve cover and do valve lash one more time. So we're going to set the valve lash now. GSC says 8 thousandths on the intake and 8 thousandths on the exhaust. Normal, I think factory is 6 and 8. So we're gonna do 8 and 8, and then we're gonna come back and start it. All right, so she's all back together. We put a gasket on that, on the turbo manifold, because there wasn't one. It's got all the bolts in it now. We did the valve clearance already. Lee's hooking up the injectors. Charge piping is just kind of slid on for now. Distributor's on, plugged in. Fuel line needs to be tightened because I didn't do that, but you see, we'll do that right now. Right now. Hold on. Give me a second. It's hard to do this one-handed. One more.
So you should have swapped. You know, everybody knows you're recording with your right hand.
Shut up, Shay. Nobody asked you. Alright, so the fuel feed line is tight. Injectors are hooked up now. Right now we're going to give it, once again, just like the other video, it's still on that ECU that we don't know. I think the map is for a turbo F22 with 450s. These are thousands. So we're just going to try to start it on this and see, main thing, see if the oil issue is fixed. And if the oil issue is fixed, then I'll make a map for it and we'll let her idle. We gotta fill up the coolant stuff and tighten up some clamps, and then we can put some coolant in it too. So here goes the first attempt at the first start. We're gonna check for fuel pressure. Go ahead and turn the key on, Lee. We've got fuel pressure. Nothing's leaking. Do it again. All right, Lee. I think it's a go. Yep, nothing's leaking. Give her a go. Go again. I'll try doing it without holding the throttle. Alright, so we got Honda opened up on the laptop. Turn the key on. It should say that it's online. We got 3 error codes. We're going to start fresh. I don't know what the closest thing. Have like a turbo GSR on here or something.
Doubt it.
I always have luck with the F20B maps for some reason, so we'll do that. We'll load that. We'll upload. We'll go over here to parameters. The injectors are 1000 cc's. So normally you want to go over here in dead time, and you go to injector dynamic 1000 cc. Most of the time when you buy injectors new, they'll come with a little card and it'll tell you what the inputs are for this area, for these rows. Turn it off and then on. Go. This is going to be the first warm start on it, so we'll see what happens. Go ahead. Alright guys, so as you can see, we got her going. Lee is ecstatic for the last like 20 minutes. He's been listening to the video on repeat, my Snapchat video. It's just been repeating and repeating and repeating. So anyway, we are out of here. The next step for old girl, we have to do headlight wiring. We have to do the tail light wiring, because this car, the whole wiring harness before was trash, so everything's out, so we have to redo a couple little things. But all the wiring for the lights, because street car, obviously. Then we have to make the downpipe and the dump tube. Well, it's not really going down, it's going out the side, but got to do that. We have to tighten up all the charge piping. The cam seals didn't seem to seat properly, so it's seeping, so we have to do those. And you know, now that the motor has cams and everything, the manifold might be kind of maxed out, so we'll see about maybe finding a ram horn or a top mount before we go to tune. So if we do that, then it'll really make power, except it still has stock sleeves, so I'd like to limit it to like 400, 450. I'd feel comfortable there. And then as long as it can make it through the rest of the year, the game plan is to CSS for the next setup. Because now the only thing that's holding us back is the turbo manifold and the sleeves. But she's coming together. I really want to try to have it tuned towards the end of the month, hopefully, if everything goes as planned. And then July 27th, they're doing an event in Albany, Georgia, US 19 Raceway or something like that. It's a no prep event, and they're doing a run what you brung front wheel drive class and then a run what you brung all out class. So we'll see if we can get her dialed in time. We might be in Georgia with it. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, share. We are out of here, and I will see you in the next one.